That might work. Hello there. My name is Michelle, and if it's all right with you, I'd like to talk to you about knitting. If I start looking over here, it's because I have an outline of what I want to talk about. I am nothing without a plan. I have to write everything down. So for everyone's sake, it's best if I just stick to my script as best I can. Why am I recording this? Why am I here? Why are you watching this? If you are, thank you. I love all things knitting, all things fiber. I love crafts. I've made my crafts my entire personality. I can't stop talking about it, and I really, really enjoy watching knitting podcasts. It's really fun for me. I was watching a podcast on someone's channel, and it was, they were saying something to the effect of they really enjoy, talking about knitting, hearing about knitting. And when you don't have a lot of fiber friends, you just don't have enough people to talk to. And so it's nice to sort of hear someone talking about it, because even though it's a one-sided conversation, even that is nicer than not talking about it. So my challenge for myself was, could I make my own knitting podcast? Could I produce a knitting podcast that I would watch and like? So that sounds pretty weird, but I might be the only person who's watching this, which is even weirder. The thought of me talking to myself, although I do that often. I work from home most days, so there's a lot of talking to myself. So if you are not me and you are watching this, first of all, I'm so sorry. No, I'm joking. Well, I hope you enjoy this. All right, I'm rambling now. Just a quick background of how I started my fiber journey. I started knitting in 2020, around August. It was right around the time where the restrictions were opened up and people could go outside and, be relatively safe. And so I went to my local Michael's and I picked up some yarn and some needles, and I have been knitting ever since. My sister actually tried to teach me a few years before that, but because she learned to knit from a knitting class, but I wasn't ready then, is what I like to say. Yeah, it didn't work out, but I came back to it and I love it and I'm obsessed with it. Enough of that. I'm going to try to follow the format of other podcasts that I watch, which usually start with what they're wearing, but I'm not a garment knitter. I'll talk about that later, but I do have my knit sweater. I forget what Etsy shop I got it from, but I can link it. I can find a link. If I find a link, I will link it somewhere. This is my first foray into doing anything on YouTube, so please bear with me. With that, finished objects. This is my submission to the Fisher Girl Fall Make Along, hosted by Casey from Young Folk Knits. And I should have looked up who her co-host is, but I believe Casey included this in one of her pattern roundups for patterns to do for the Fisher Girl Fall Make Along. These are the Fisherfolk socks by Stone Knits. I knit size medium on US 1.5 for the color work and US 1 for the cuff and foot. I use Cascade Heritage Clear Skies. That's 5781 is my main color. That's the blue. And then Knit Pick Stroll Hollyberry, which was left over from a previous pair of socks. This is actually my second pair of colorwork socks ever. I have knit socks before, although I don't know, you probably can't tell from these, but yeah, I went kind of sock crazy last year and knit a bunch of socks, and they're probably my favorite thing to knit. I did heel flap and gusset. because I couldn't make the short rows. I couldn't figure them out. And the biggest thing about these socks that I want to tell you about is I just lined up the heels, and you can see that the one is bigger than the other. So a couple of things I think happened. The sort of colorwork rows for the chart, 2 rows of lobsters was more rows than 2 rows of crabs, which is why I did 3 rows of crabs. Good so far. I counted wrong, or I must have, I don't know. And I thought that even with the additional row, this leg was still longer. So I knit an additional, you can sort of see it here, additional couple of rows before I went into the heel. I don't think I needed those. The other thing is, I started with this sock, and you could probably tell that the color work on this one is tighter. I can get it over my heel, like I can get it to clear, and once it's on my ankle, it's fine. But this one is a lot stretchier. And it's actually puckered, not because it's so tight, but because on the blockers, they were just loose on the blockers, so it didn't like hold the sock taut. So I believe I knit this one so tight that then to compensate, I knit this one too loose. Like I must have unknowingly just started knitting them very, very loose. The other issue, which this one has really no explanation other than I was being a silly Billy. I knit the leg in 9-inch circulars, on 9-inch circulars, and then I knit the foot on magic loop. Why did I switch? I think it was because my hands were starting to hurt, and 9-inch circulars are harder on my hands than magic loop. Sock knitting in general make my hands hurt, but I still do it anyways. Shh, don't judge me. I did the color work as well on 9-inch circulars, but then I did the foot on 9-inch circulars. So that's all to say this one is a little bit larger than this one. About the yarn, I've worked with Cascade Heritage before, but I made a sort of head wrap. And it was fine. It's really soft. It's very economical and accessible. However, I don't know that I like it for socks. It's already got sort of like a fuzz. You can probably see it here, which is not the end of the world, but I am concerned about how they will hold up. So I knew these were going to be house socks no matter what, but house socks. But they're so cute and I love them. And that's all I have to say. Actually, here's some leftover. I really thought that this color pairing, I don't know, I'm like obsessed with like a light blue and like a, you know, like a cherry red. I don't know. I'm vibing with it. That's my first finished object. I also sew. I started sewing earlier this year. Mostly because my hands were hurting so much. I don't have carpal tunnel. I went this summer to get tested. I don't have carpal tunnel. The doctor seems to think I might just have some tendonitis in both of my arms. Yay. But I started sewing. My mother-in-law very graciously gifted me a sewing machine, and then she sent me some Jelly Roll fabric and a Jelly Roll quilt book, which I'll share in a second. And I was off to the races. I'm like a cat with a cardboard box when it comes to crafts. So what I finished was, I've got this, oh boy, hold on, let's see what we're gonna do with this. This is just a quilt top, it's not a full quilt. Oh boy, here we go. I don't know if I can get it all. All in, but I finished this last week. All right, let me scoot back. Do you guys like my yarn wreath? My sister got it for me on Buy Nothing. so I don't know who made it or anything about it. All right, so I used part of the Moda pattern called Short and Long to sort of, I had these random fat quarters, and I knew I wanted to make something like this where it was just like, this is the backside checkered, and just like a bunch of colors. But because I only had, I had a limited amount of fat quarters, so I couldn't do the whole, or I couldn't do anything bigger. But I didn't want like the border fabric that I believe the pattern has. Anyway, so I used that for like the checkered, or like the actual like 4x4 block. I think that's it for that. I don't know when I've only quilted 2 baby quilts, meaning like I've done the whole kit and caboodle, right? The top, the quilting-y stuff, the binding. I've finished 2 other quilt tops. I think this is my 3rd. I have a small machine. I have a small standard brother sewing machine, so I can't do anything larger than, well, I've only ever done the baby one, so I want to see if I can get the like a throw size quilt in there, but we'll see. I think we can move on to whips, which I have plenty. I'm not working on all of them, but for the sake of this first chat with you, I'm going to go through all of my whips, and I'm going to start from oldest to newest. So my oldest is my DK Jelly Roll Blanket. The pattern is by Kay Jones. I am following Kayla Litton's modifications, and I'm just using leftover sock yarn. Oh boy. So here she is. I'm not gonna get this all. Oh, hold on. Let's wheel back. It's on the floor right now. This is what I got. I don't have a lot. And so again, this is sock yarn that I'm holding double. Just leftover socks. Let's see, what can I tell you about this? So it's funny because one thing you should know about me is that I'm a very, very, very tight knitter. Very tight knitter. The first socks that I made for myself, I was making them not only so tight, I mean, I could get my foot in it, but I wasn't knitting them long enough. The result of that being that I had lots of sock yarn left over. So that's why this first strip is like, you know, huge. So was the second one. It's around this last one that you can see that they're not quite as long. And even this one here. Yeah. But I don't have sock yarn fabrics to add to it right now. So this one's been hibernating. I went through a stint in like, it's like in the spring and summer where it's like, this is all I wanted to work on. This was it. All I wanted to do was add in all my sock yarn, which is why now I have no more scraps left. So, which is not a bad problem to have, but I'm knitting that on a US 5, just some clover double pointed bamboo needles. I was using a like circular needles, but I needed to use that for a different project. The next oldest is it's actually crochet, because I can also crochet. I taught myself, it's coming up on a year since I taught myself. One thing about me is that I'm really stubborn when it comes to my crafts, and nothing else in life though. If I don't get it the first time, I will quit if it's anything else. But for my crafts, it's like, nope, I'm gonna make this work. So I taught myself how to crochet. It's still a little iffy, but this is my Hexagon Cardigan by Kelly Phelps. And this is what I have. So this sleeve is pretty much done. I need to add additional lengths to this sleeve. And then when I stopped, what I was working on was adding this ribbing here to the bottom, but I'm knitting that part. And then the idea is I want to do the ribbing all along the, like, you know, the rest of it. Probably not the cuff though. However, I started this in February and I just couldn't be bothered to finish it. I don't know why. The yarn I'm using is Karen Jumbo Ombre in Seashell. I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook and I'm crocheting the size large. But I just don't want to work on it. I don't know why. I'm like close, but not. And I think that's part of the reason why is like, I don't know. And I know I'll love it so much when I have it, but I just can't be bothered. It'll strike me. I will get I gotta do the thing. And then, I'll do the thing. But it hasn't happened yet, so. All right, on to the next. Aha, this was another one that was languishing. This one I cast on in March. Now, I am not Irish. I did an ancestry test. I don't have any Irish in me. But my husband is. His mother's side, they're Irish. So what is this? This is an Aran sweater. You wouldn't know if you looked at it. This is an Aran sweater, and it is, I'm knitting the clan that his grandmother's maiden name had a clan sweater on. It's Aran online store. It's, Aran.com, and they both sell Aran sweaters and they also sell the patterns. So I bought the pattern for the family or clan that my husband's maternal side would have hailed from, and that's the one I'm doing. I cast this on in March. It's October. This is knit from the bottom up, which I've only ever made 2 sweaters. I'm just not a big garment knitter, but both of them have been top down. Now this is meant to be bottom up, and you do front, back, sleeves, and then you seam it all together. I am a lousy hand sewer, so I was determined to try to knit as much of this in the round. Now, what I'm doing is I basically calculated like all the stitches that I needed for the round. I also needed the pattern came in 3 sizes. The largest was like 42 inches around. I added some additional moss stitch. You are definitely not going to see that. Just to give me additional inches in circumference. And so it's essentially like you're knitting the front and back at the same time. Eventually I will have to knit the front and back flat, but I'll deal with that when I get to it. So what else can I tell you about this? The yarn is Stonehenge Fiber Mill Shepherd's Wool worsted in Hunter Green, and I actually picked this up at Maryland Sheep and Wool 2024 because I live in Virginia. So Maryland Sheep and Wool is not far at all for me. And it was so much fun to go. And I had intended to knit something else with this sweater, but then I switched gears. Sorry, intended to knit something else with this yarn, but then switched gears to my Aran sweater. So it is like beginning stages, right? So this is a one by one rib knit through the back loop, which took me forever. I don't like ribbing. Hot take time. I don't like ribbing. But yeah, you can see sort of some cables there and some situation here. I've got all my like pattern repeats like marked out in a completely chaotic system that no one else would understand, but it's working for me for now. All right, on to my next whip. So this is the Reyna shawl by Noora Backlund, Lind. And I'm knitting this, this is Ruby and Rose's Plump Rose in Ride or Die. It is her Downton Abbey collection, part of her Downton Abbey collection. I'm not following the pattern exactly. These sort of like little mesh details are supposed to get like, it repeats and it gets bigger and bigger until it's like the bottom is just that mesh, but I didn't want that. So I've done the eyelet mesh rows, then I do 6 rows of garter, then repeat the eyelets again. And then I do, you know, some like 24, 26 rounds of stockinette and repeat. And that's what I'm doing. And this is for my sister. I'm knitting this on US 5 needles. Memo to me, do not knit a shawl in fingering weight yarn. Aha, here she is. It's really nice. I've never worked with Ruby and Rose's yarn, but it's really pretty. It's just this gray. I believe the inspiration for this colorway was Anna and Bates. Their like love story. Yeah, it's going well so far. It's just fingering weight shawl and it's going to take forever. I have a whole other skein. So this is what I have left of one skein. And then I've got a whole other one caked up. But it's for my sister and I do it because I love her. Okay, next whip. This is all I have. It is a vanilla sock. This is my leftover yarn from the 3 by the Sea. Oh my God. Do I have to do the thing that everyone does to block their face? 3 by the Sea, Sanibel in Feeling Frosty. So this was their, it was like last October. It was like a pre-sale, pre-order for like a holiday mystery set, and it was inspired by Frosty the Snowman. And so this is the main color. I don't have the contrast color here with me, but I already knit a pair of socks and this is just what I had left over from knitting one pair. So I think I can get a pair of shorties out of these. So I've got 20 rounds of 2x2, 15 rounds maybe of stockinette, and I'm actually just going to go into the heel next, and do some shorties because I still want to have some left over to put into my blanket. So I think that'll work out. What am I knitting these on? 1.5, which is 2.5 millimeters. You know, again, I knit very tight, so even with the 1.5, I think I probably get 9 stitches per inch. So there are some, you know, not all sock weight yarn is made the same. Some strands are thicker than others. And so it just depends. This one is what I would say is much thinner. So I go to 1.5. If it's a little bit plumper, I do 1. So I've never had to go down to a US 0 because I strangle my stitches. So, okay. And so my last whip, if you're still with me, I'm looking at the time, I'm trying to wrap this up. My last whip is actually a quilt top that I'm working on. I've been working on this one for a while. This is just one of the blocks. This is the Tutti Frutti by Pam and Nikki Linnott. These are the colorful fabric is just random fat quarters I bought from a quilt shop in Winchester, Virginia. and then just some white on white yardage that I also got from the shop. What else can I tell you about this? This is actually a pattern from this book by Pam and Nikki Linnet. And this is the Tutti Frutti pattern. Is it getting that? Yeah. I need 12 of these, and I have 11, but I would have had 12, but I made some silly cutting mistakes, so I have to reconfigure some blocks, or some of like the smaller blocks, to then, you know, build up the larger block. But yes, that one's also in progress, and I can't remember when I started this. I'm ready to finish this. I'm ready to finish this. And she's not perfect. Neither is my other quilt top. My sewing is a work in progress. My sewing skills, I should say. But I have fun with it, and it's good. I need to take a break from knitting because I could just knit for hours on end, and which is not good for my hands. So I try to alternate with some knitting or sewing, and but I'm ready to finish this one. I'm ready to finish it, and I think this one I will send to a long armor because it is so pretty, and I love the pattern, and I think it would be really nice with some like all over quilting. Also because I'm scared of some of the seams popping open, so I think I need quilt lines going all over this bad boy. But yeah, that is it. That is all. Actually, I'm staring at one thing right there. Hold on. All right, let's talk about it. This isn't technically a whip. This is practice. I'm not an experienced colorwork knitter. The socks that I showed earlier, those were only the second colorwork thing I've ever done. So my dream project that I would love to cast on soon is the Moonwake shawl by Andrea Mowry. I have the yarn for it. I actually bought it this May at Yarn Centric in Frederick, Maryland. And this is it. This is the pattern, and I've actually started it with some just scrap yarn that I have that I combined, and so this is just practice. I think it looks good. You know, it's a cowl. It's knit in the round. I've got a provisional cast on here, and then, you know, you just knit your tube, and then you know, graft it together. So in terms of like tension, you know, this isn't going over my head, so as long as it's long enough, I think I'd be okay. But yeah, this is just practice, so it's not technically a whip, but I'll show it off anyways. So yeah, it's fun. I actually really like these colors together. The colors I have are different, but it's wool and mulberry silk, which I didn't know when I bought it. When they rang me up, I was like, what? Why is that so expensive? So it's really nice yarn. It's really nice yarn. So before I cast it on, I want to make sure I've got this color work thing going on. The way that I'm knitting color work right now is one hand and I drop the strand. I'm sorry, don't come for me. That's just what's working for me. It's what I did with both of these socks. So my tension knitting English style and continental style are wildly different. Like, I am much looser continental, which I should probably just switch to continental. But I learned English style knitting, or that's how I learned, so that's what I do. But yeah, I think that's it. And before this gets any longer, I'm gonna sign off here. If you made it to the end, thank you. Also, I'm so sorry you just had to listen to me ramble on and on. I love knitting. I love fiber. I love yarn. I love crafts. It's just so much fun and it brings so much joy to me, and I love talking about it. Can you tell? And yeah, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know is this a one-off? Am I one and done? Will this become a regular thing? What I would love is constructive feedback. Let me know what worked, what didn't work, anything you have to say in regards of what I might do better, what I might talk more about or less about. Should I slow down? It's just occurred to me that I've probably been talking at like 1.25 speed or 1.5. But let me know. I have enjoyed talking at you about all my knitting projects. And I hope that you are doing well, that you're enjoying making whatever brings you joy. And until next time, take care.